Warning: the radio broadcast you're about to hear was made by men and for men. It may at times seem a little rough around the edges, brash, and certainly not canonically approved by papal authority. But its content may indeed challenge you to become the man, father, husband God has called you to be. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to another week of The Obligation. My name is Jason Murphy. So glad you are here. We have a ton to cover. I'm bouncing off the walls today. Have a desk covered. Coming to you today from the Carolina Catholic Media Network on North Tryon Street, one of my favorite places to be. Place filled with history, and the walls could talk. They could tell a lot of stories. Joined behind the scenes from our producer, Chris Pressler. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Said you were bouncing. It's from that second cup of coffee you had.
I know.
I still got my coffee right now. I'm still sipping on it.
I know.
So I'm and ready to go.
I was so excited. I even brought some tinfoil hats in to make sure my guest and I were ready and prepared for what's coming. So anyway, before we get going, obviously we have our disclaimer before the show starts. You've just heard that. But also, before we talk about anything else, I'd like to quote St. Thomas Aquinas. It's a quote that I heard recently, and it has been very fitting and helpful to everything we've been covering, and making sure we are leaving no stone unturned. It's very simple, and it goes like this: rarely affirm, seldom deny, and always distinguish. So today we're going to do our best to distinguish. We're definitely going to be making some distinguishments and just see where we end up. I'm joined in the studio by a close family friend whose parents are the godparents of one of my daughters. We have shared the same pew at St. Patrick's Cathedral for a number of years. Two of their daughters have been instrumental in helping to raise our kids and keep the Murphy family on track. I'm joined by a Marine who has served in Iran and Afghanistan. He has gone to the private sector of security, and he is a follower of the traditional Latin Mass. So without further ado, Frank Cona, thanks for joining me today on The Obligation.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yes, I know you were a little curious there. Saw my tinfoil hat when we pulled up. So
yeah, I left mine in the car. I didn't want to seem weird.
Yeah,
but
I just wanted to make sure we made you feel at home.
Thank you.
And you had a little swag to go home from the obligation. So we'll put those out on our website. We'll be able to order your own custom tinfoil hats.
Good.
Custom moldable from the highest quality of aluminum foil available.
Yeah, when I saw you wear those, I thought I was like left out of the loop. I was like, well, where's mine?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chris. I figured you'd bring yours. I figured you'd bring it. So, Frank, thanks again for being here. It's very exciting. I know I've probably scared you to death here with everything I've spilled out over the last few minutes we've been talking. And
no nonsense.
All right. But anyway, for everyone out there, tell us a little bit about yourself. We talked about the Marines and we've talked about your faith. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. I guess the way I came to be Catholic is I was raised Catholic in the Novus Ordo rite with my parents, and I wound up falling away when I was an adult. For about 10 years, I was a pagan, like an actual pagan, not just pagan in the broader sense.
We were probably worshiping the same church.
Right. But anyway, I've had a few near-death experiences, all of them in Afghanistan, actually. It's a really lovely place, charming place. But
yeah, I've seen the brochure. It looks wonderful.
Yeah. But the last one really stuck to my ribs. We were basically on this base, and our base got attacked, and I had to go into a machine gun nest with a bunch of Muslim guys. And they were like local Muslim guys that we had hired to help guard the base. They had mustaches. They didn't speak English, and I'm sitting there with these guys like, oh, if I get smoked today, these guys are going to be my band of brothers, and I'll go to Muslim heaven with them. Or maybe I won't go to Muslim heaven. Maybe I'll go to Muslim hell because I'm not a good Muslim. Like, where am I going to go? And out of the near-death experiences I've had, like that one stuck to my ribs because of the theological subtext and undertones of them. And when we got done that day, I was like, well, I have to get serious about knowing what comes in the afterlife and preparing for it.
Absolutely.
So I went home and I did a bunch of research, and I basically researched every religion, but then I was like, oh, the Catholic religion is correct the whole time. Mom and Dad were right. Sorry. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But anyway, I started going back to Mass again.
Yeah.
And eventually my sister was partying one night, and she stayed out a little too late, and she showed up to the Latin Mass at St. Anne's.
By accident.
At 12:30, yeah, because she showed up too late to go to her normal Mass. And
Okay.
she got on the phone, she called me, she said, Frank, they've got this Mass at St. Anne's that's all in Latin. It's like a Crusader Mass. Like, you'd love it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know they had those. And so I went,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, this is really different.
And how long ago was that?
It was about 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, wow, this is extremely profound. There's something different about this. So, and I didn't know about the polemics, the crisis in the church, or anything like that. I was just trying to be a basic Catholic at that point. So I started engaging, going to St. Anne's, and then after I'd been at St. Anne's for like 5 years, I want to say, the Corona pandemic happened, and all the churches are shut down. And the only church that was open was St. Anthony of Padua, the SSPX chapel out in Mount Holly. So I said to myself, well, they are a bunch of schismatic heretics, but I got to go to Mass somewhere.
You were instructed well.
Yeah.
By the Novus Ordo.
Yeah, I believed in all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
malicious slander against
That's
the
right.
society, so I had not been going there. But then I went, and I met some people, and I started to read more about the situation of how the society got started, what their mission is, and I just wound up staying. And I figured any place that stays open during a corona pandemic, and people that risk their health to go to Mass and to say Mass, like, that's the most Catholic church that I can find.
That's right.
It's the only, I mean, it was the only church that stayed open to my knowledge in the area. So, I mean, that was just a huge green flag for me.
Yeah. No, that's great. That sounds very true for a lot of folks in our area, and I'm sure, in our world especially. It sounds like the society kept that light on
Yeah.
for many, and I've seen a lot of folks come to understand the traditional Latin Mass from that experience. For myself, it was a little different. I was Novus Ordo Catholic as well, brought up, and did not know my faith. And in some very troubling times that brought me back, I found, was brought back to the traditional Latin Mass, and it was one Sunday and every Sunday after. And you're hearing a lot more of that, especially, with the crisis going on in the church. You're hearing about these conversions, numerous conversions, and not just conversions or reversions, as I would say, as myself and yourself, kind of reverting back, but these true conversions of people who weren't even Catholic or even practicing witchcraft and Satanism, coming because they've seen the holiness and the sanctity of the traditional Latin Mass. It's remarkable of what's going on. So I guess what brings us together and what we've been talking about, over the last several weeks, this all kind of got brought to the limelight, you could say, with Traditionis Custodes, and back in July of 2021, when Pope Francis decided that they would put restrictions on the traditional Latin Mass, and we didn't see much change at first. We didn't see many things happening. We kind of heard murmurs, and in our diocese, of course, we have a few different parishes and priests who were offering, and it was kind of becoming a normalized Mass within the diocese and growing and thriving. And we didn't see much until, I guess, with the cancellation of the Triduum this past year. That is when I think we really saw, okay, the brakes are being pressed harder here. And with my many conversations with Jim DiPiante, who is a follower of the traditional Latin Mass out at St. Anthony's Society of St. Pius X Chapel as well, they saw an influx, a large influx of people leaving their parishes and finding the traditional Latin Mass. And there's a great storm coming. We're seeing just an awakening within our church that what we have been spoon-fed for the past 50 years is not teaching the faith. It's not bolstering the faith. And have you had a chance, and I'm sure you have, to see the documentary Mass of the Ages?
I saw the first episode.
Okay.
I think they have a second one out, right?
It just came out. Yep, it just came out. Like May 26th it came out, so it's out there. And that, I think, I've made the comparison before, comparing to the Passion of the Christ, probably the most visual example we can have of our Lord's suffering and death, done, by Mel Gibson years ago that we've all seen for the most part. I would say that this puts together such a visual and a simple explanation of what we have seen in the past 50 years. So certainly, I've plugged it before and I'll continue to plug it because it is eye-opening when you really see what was going on. And, one of the analogies we used a couple episodes ago, the Coke analogy. I'm not sure if you heard that one, but Coca-Cola, in the 1980s decided to introduce New Coke. And they realized after 79 days, people did not want new Coke. They wanted old Coke. Yeah. And Chris, you remember that one, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you a fan of the new Coke?
No, I wasn't. I always liked the classic. They call it classic Coke.
Yeah. There was a lot of buzz about that. How about you? Do you remember when that was 19, was it 80, I forget now, 86, 85, something like that.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Didn't exist
You weren't
yet.
even around. Yeah. Well, you missed out. You missed out on that whole experiment.
Some awesome history.
Yeah, but for those who may have missed that story, basically, Coca-Cola, introduced this new formula. They wanted to compete with Pepsi. They were seeing that, the younger drinkers were going over to Pepsi, and the older community or the older folks were staying with Coke, and they wanted to bring that younger crowd back. But they introduced this new formula, and no one asked for the new formula. No one liked the new formula. And within 79 days, Coca-Cola said this was a bad idea, and they changed it. And they kept New Coke around for a little while, but eventually it just kind of dissipated and went away. When Jim DiPiante and I were speaking, I brought that analogy up, and he brought it even further by stating, there were no bad players at Coke. Everybody at Coke wanted the betterment of Coke. They wanted the increase in the stock of Coke. They wanted Coke to be the number one beverage, in the world. And so after 79 days, they realized this was not good for Coke. There were no bad players at Coke. However, there were bad players in the church in the 1960s, and they definitely wanted to see an undermining of the church. Bugnini, his new mass, and the fallout from that. Yeah. So that was the analogy we used, and that's where we are, and we're seeing it continue. We're continuing. When we have these restrictions being put, these brutal attacks on. And I say brutal attacks, not physical attacks, of course, but the spiritual and these maneuvering attacks on the church and on the liturgy. But nothing being done of those church leaders who are, actively undermining the church and actively promoting things against the Catholic Church.
These things are attacks because how much leniency and benefit of the doubt can you give to somebody that knows Latin and ancient Greek? And in some cases is a canon lawyer and has access to the Vatican Library. You can only give them so much leeway as, this was an honest mistake, or this was done out of ignorance, before you're like, this is obviously malicious.
Yeah. And the statistics are there. The science, I keep calling it the science. The science is now there. It's not like we don't know. It's not an experiment anymore. We look at the number of Catholics who've left the faith. We look at the number of priests who left the church or left their vocation. We look at the closure of schools and churches, which continues. We do not have a thriving church. We have a undermined and crumbling church, and yet in that we did, through the traditional Latin Mass, and do have a growing, thriving community of believers who are some of the most faithful Catholics. We can poll Novus Ordo Catholics, and less than 50% will believe in the true presence. You take a poll at any traditional community, whether it be the Society of St. Pius X or Fraternity of St. Peter or a indult mass, and you will get a vastly different response. They are there for the faith. They are there because they love the faith. Even the most nominal Catholics don't even attend Mass every Sunday, the most simple of duties as Catholics. So we've seen a huge change, and And that's kind of where we are. This is it's vital that we pay attention to what's going on. We have these Catholics who have full belief and are the most obedient and want to be the most obedient, yet they are written as the disobedient ones and the ones that are extreme and bucking Rome or bucking their bishops or their priests, and yet they're the ones who are adhering to 1,500 years of liturgical history within the church. They're doing nothing that these Church of Martyrs and Saints have done.
Yeah, I mean, think back to the Arian heresy. At that point, 50% of the church believed that Jesus Christ was just a man and not really God.
Right.
Horrible heresy. But, it was 50% of the church. There were bishops, priests that taught that from the pulpit. The Pope even flirted with it and was soft on it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you think in that point they had all sorts of names for true Catholics that believed Christ was God. They had all sorts of attacks for them. So I feel like today is maybe not as weighty, or maybe more weighty than the Arian heresy, but it's the same kind of situation in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it continues. We continue to see these attacks on traditional communities and faithful bishops. Archbishop Corleone, we know, who took a very public stance against Nancy Pelosi's receiving of communion, and now, absolutely, right. And thankfully, he had the courage, in the face of the political leaders and church leaders, to say, this is what the Catholic Church states. This is what we need to be teaching. And I want to bring up a quote by Archbishop Fulton Sheen from years ago. Very wise words. He says, "Who's going to save our church? It's not our bishops, it's not our priests, and it is not the religious. It is up to you, the people. You have the minds, the eyes, and the ears to save the church. Your mission is to see that the priests act like priests, your bishops act like bishops, and the religious act like religious." What do you think about that quote there, Frank?
I think that's great. I mean, what a call to action, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I do see the final changes coming from the Pope himself. I don't think that anything is going to change until we have a Pope that, if God wills it, Pope Francis, His Holiness, has a change of heart, decides to start doing the right thing, or God sends us another Pope to do it. But and this is just my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, but as a layman, I'm nothing and nobody, and all I can do really is take shelter while these things go on in the church. I don't know what His Holiness is doing in Rome. I don't know what the bishops are up to. I have no idea. And I don't think I really need to have any idea to a degree, because I found a place where I can take shelter, where the Latin Mass is there regardless of coronavirus or Traditionis Custodes. Whatever, it's there. And I think that all laymen need to find a place to take refuge. Otherwise, you're going to go insane trying to solve all the problems of the church.
Absolutely. No, it is. It is a big mess, and we got to be careful not to get caught up in it and to remain faithful. I just think right now it's time to voice so that people can understand, especially people, I go back to that have only known the Novus Ordo. If you've only known the Novus Ordo, you don't know the rich history of the church.
Right.
If you've only heard, Vatican II and what this spirit of renewal of Vatican II is, and we've ignored, every other Vatican council, we are missing out. And if you look at the fruits of the traditional Latin Mass and you look at the fruits of the Novus Ordo, it's astounding the difference of how well people know their faith, practice their faith, the reverence given to our Lord and the Blessed Sacrament, and just the community that's built. The average Catholic, like we said, barely even makes it to Mass on Sunday, which is an obligation. So certainly there is not much of a community. If you're barely going once a week,
right?
You're certainly not going to be the one hanging around for the fish fries and the parish potlucks and the community building there.
Or even worse, you are, and you're impacting the community as somebody like Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi. They're the people in charge of these communities.
Yeah,
that's even worse than not showing up at all.
But tell me about some of the community with Society of St. Pius X, because I'm very familiar with Society of St. Pius X, and I haven't been there in a little while. But I know that there was always a very strong community of believers, and not just, while church was going on, while the liturgy was taking place, but I mean afterwards. It was all sorts of events and groups, men's groups, women's groups. I think you're involved with one of them, right? The
Yeah, that's
Holy
right.
Name?
I'm the vice president of the Holy Name Society there at St. Anthony's.
Tell us a little bit about the Holy Name Society.
Well, I'm new to it,
Okay.
ironically. But
Okay.
as soon as I started going to St. Anthony's, I was approached and said, hey, we have a men's meeting. It's a Holy Name Society meeting every Saturday night, first Saturday of every month. And this was all totally new to me because I'd been going to other churches where there wasn't really much community. People would just poach the sacraments, hop in their cars, and drive away. You
Yeah.
never see them again until next
And
Sunday.
we will be right back.
But going to that meeting, it's basically a 700-year-old Dominican confraternity. A lot of indulgences are attached to membership, and also you have all the prayers of past, present, future Dominicans get applied to you. So there's tremendous grace that you can get from going to Holy Name Society. And what we do is the men sit down and talk business. We discuss basically a strategy for spiritual rules, like a daily prayer rule and things
Okay.
like that.
Accountability
Yeah,
between the
that's right.
men.
Yeah. And then we also discuss business of the actual church, which we handle. And then after that, we grill and drink bourbon and smoke cigars and
Do manly things.
do manly stuff.
Nice.
Got a gun show. You have a gun? Come check it out.
Yeah, exactly.
But so
That's great.
it's really good, and it's something unlike I've ever seen anywhere else in terms of the church. But going to visit other society churches in the priories, they actually build really thriving Catholic communities where it's not just nominally Catholic. I mean, they look at what the Catholic Church teaches and has taught, and they say, okay, how can we apply that in our daily life?
Yeah.
How are we going to plan this dance on Sunday so that it doesn't offend anybody like St. John Chrysostom or St. John Vianney? How are we going to do these things from a Catholic perspective?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of other parishes have the cart behind the horse in that way. They're like, how can we dumb down Catholicism so that it sucks more people in? And I
Yeah.
feel like that's the wrong approach.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely having that Catholic community, it penetrates, and it draws people in to their family and to an extension, and because that is what it's all about. It's not just do your little weekly check-in, go up and follow the herd to get your host, our Lord.
Right.
If you even believe that, it's just because most people think that's just what you do. You get it and go, right? I think if they had a drive-through, you would see a staggering number of Catholics who would just drive through. And I think during the pandemic, they probably did do a lot of drive-through communion services.
Yeah,
So,
or an Uber, like Blasphemy Eats, something like that.
oh man, that's it right there. So I think we're coming up on our first break. Thanks for sticking around, and we will be right back with Frank Cona.
Did you know that 90% of older adults wish to stay in their home as they age? Aging in place has many benefits. It tends to improve quality of life, which in return improves physical health. Also, retaining independence as we age is critically important to our mental health. Hi, my name is Meredith Stignan, and I am the president of Harmony Home Solutions and an active parishioner of St. Patrick Cathedral. We are your trusted partner for aging in place. We strive to enhance the lives of older adults and their families by providing premier aging-in-place and universal design lifestyle solutions that increase safety beautifully. Now is the time to get your aging-in-place plan in order with Harmony Home Solutions. Visit our website today at hhsclt.com. Again, that's hhsclt.com. Or give us a call at 980-220-8821. Again, that's 980-220-8821. We want to help you live an empowered and beautiful life.
And we are back. Thanks for joining us on The Obligation, coming to you once again from the Carolina Catholic Media Network studio on North Tryon Street. Joined by Chris Pressler and my friend Frank Cona here in the studio, and we are just delving into all sorts of fun topics here, talking about the traditional Latin Mass, restrictions thereof, men's organizations, being involved in our faith, and the strong following of the traditional Latin Mass community, and how it's been affected. I want to read another quote. I'm a man of many quotes. I have so many that are my favorites. And there's going to be some listeners out there that will be very familiar with this one. So it goes like this. What Catholics once were, we are. If we are wrong, then Catholics through the ages have been wrong. We are what you once were. We believe what you once believed. We worship as you once worshipped. If we are wrong now, you were wrong then. If you were right then, we are right now. Mr. Cona, do you know whose quote that is?
Yeah, but I'll let you tell them.
That is my good friend Jim DiPiante's father, Robert DiPiante. Back in the 1990s, statement there, basically defending his stance against the Novus Ordo and for the traditional Latin Mass. And as true as it rang then, I think it rings extremely loud now. Now that, we are no longer in the experimental phase. We are way down the road. We are 50 years down the road from Vatican II and all of the changes to the Mass, the liturgy, the calendar, the language, you name it, and we can see, what went on. If we're saying that the traditional Latin Mass is not compatible with the faith, then we are basically negating 1,500 years of Catholic history and belief and practice, and to just enforce what's going on. I mean, there's a new story every day I run across. I mean, the most recent one here, we have the Vatican asking for the suspension of ordinations in a French diocese. So Pope Francis has been kind of in a whirlwind of getting new cardinals, ready for I'm not sure what, but have you heard about some of the maneuvering there? Some of these bishops being placed.
Oh, I'm sure he's doing everything he can to stack the College of Cardinals with like-minded cardinals.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, we know Archbishop Cordileone, he was overlooked as cardinal by another bishop out in California who was against the traditional Latin Mass and a proponent of many of the things that we know as Catholics we want to be weary of. But anyway, this Archbishop John Mark Aveline has conducted a visitation of the Diocese of Toulon at the request of the Vatican. The Vatican has asked a diocese in southern France to suspend its ordinations of priest and deacon scheduled for this month after a fraternal visit, that's in quotes, a fraternal visit of the diocese. Bishop Dominique Ray of Toulon announced June 2nd that the suspension was requested due to, quote, questions that certain Roman dicasteries were asking about the restructuring of the seminary and the policy of welcoming people to the diocese, end quote. Archbishop Aveline is among 21 cardinals named by Pope Francis earlier this week, and he will be the first French residential prelate to receive a red hat during the pontificate. Bishop Ray, known for his support of the traditional Latin Mass, said that he has already spoken with Cardinal Marc Ouellet, prefect of the Congregation of Bishops and other offices of the Roman Curia, about the questions raised by the visitation. So just a note, in all of France in 2020, only 126 priests were ordained, and that more than 60% of the country's dioceses had no ordinations. That is part and parcel for what is going on in the Novus Ordo Church. We are squashing, ordinations and traditional friendly bishops and cardinals, and for I don't know for what, for this new agenda, this new church that we seem to be seeing this, coming from, this push for Vatican II, the spirit of Vatican II.
Don't tell me you're surprised.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. It's just disheartening. It's curious. And again, we are distinguishing, as I read, from the beginning. We're not confirming. We're not denying. We are distinguishing. We're I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. I am an ignorant Catholic man. I am just an ignorant man trying to find my way in the church and my path, and looking at what's going on and looking at the abuses going on, looking at the falling away of Catholics and what's happened to our church in the last 50 years, And now we've decided we're going to squash, the most vibrant and flourishing community within the church. It's hard to understand. And so, looking back at Summorum Pontificum, Pope Benedict, in 2007 decided to, normalize the traditional Latin Mass. And, through that, we've just seen an enormous growth in the church in that sector, while the Novus Ordo continues to plummet. So, while we do that, now it's like we're continually looking for what's not working. It's like Coca-Cola, 50 years later, trying to look at why people aren't drinking the new formula, and there's got to be something. It's got to be the way they're drinking it. Maybe it's the can. Maybe it's the presentation. It's the design. It's the way it's being received. So they're just pushing and pushing and pushing this new formula, and it just doesn't work. What do we do? What do we do, Frank? I mean, at what point we're screaming from the rooftops about this?
Yeah. Well, obviously it's malicious. I mean, if a lot of people make the mistake of trying to engage with a priest or a bishop or even the Pope. People write letters to the Pope assuming that they're acting in good faith. And that's the most ridiculous error that you can make in dealing with these people, is trying to sit down to a chess game where the chess game is rigged.
No, you're right.
Because, I mean, as a layman, I'm nobody and nothing. I'm not going to write a letter to the Pope and then he says, oh, Frank Cona wrote me a great letter about the Latin Mass. I'm just going to abolish the Novus Ordo and bring it all back. That's not going to happen. He doesn't care. So what I have to do as a layman is basically take shelter and not isolate myself, but definitely quarantine a lot of these aspects of the faith.
Duck and cover.
Yeah, like imagine if you're at a dinner party, like a grand banquet, 20-course meal, okay? They're bringing out the food, all the courses, everything's going great. Course number 20 comes out, it's the dessert. And you're stuffed, you're full, you can eat like 2 bites of dessert. They bring it out, and people start eating it. One guy starts puking his guts out. One guy falls over, dead. And you're looking around like, what is this? And then the waiter comes up to you and gets in your face and says, why aren't you eating the dessert? You're not getting the fullness of the banquet if you don't eat this dessert. And I'm like, well, A, I'm full already. Yeah. Like I have everything I need to have had a good banquet. And B, why are you so eager to make me eat the dessert?
Right.
It's malicious.
That's a great analogy. And that brings me to, another point that's a very hot topic is the Synod on Synodality. This coming weekend, I believe the Diocese of Charlotte, June 11th, is going to have a synod meeting at the Cathedral of St. Patrick's. And last week we had Chris Lauer on of the Latin Mass community here in Charlotte. And he read through and we went through the responses because there was several questions given to all of the community members within the Diocese of Charlotte and kind of, asking what the church needs to do, what it could do. And pretty much, the traditional Latin Mass community responded that, we want to do what the church has done. We're not looking for novel ideas. We're not looking for a new solution. We want to be able to live this faith that is so vital and so important to us, and the way that it's been practiced for forever. And why we're being forced into this new way, and you're taking away what a previous pope and even popes prior to that have sanctified.
Right.
So what is this? And the only thing I can bring together is there is maliciousness going on. And I hate to even say that. I hate to think about that. That does is that what I want to think about and say about the Holy Catholic Church?
Of course not. But I mean, you do have opportunities to put a mouthpiece in and protect yourself.
Yeah.
If you want it, there's a church where you can go where they say Latin Mass. There's a church where you can go that's Novus Ordo. They say Novus Ordo Mass. I mean, you do have the option to choose today.
Yeah.
And thank God for that. It's not totally suppressed.
That's right.
Latin Mass isn't totally suppressed.
That's right. Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. So they plan the Latin Mass, the Charlotte Latin Mass community plans on verbalizing these responses at this meeting on Saturday, And talking about the synod on synodality, have you done any research, looked into the synod at all?
Oh, not really. Anytime I hear synodality, I break out in hives and I have to go outside for a cigarette.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I've got to read it though. I've got to read for those who may not be aware. But the synod on synodality is a 2-year process of listening and dialogue, beginning in Rome. With each individual diocese in the church celebrating in October, and then it'll conclude in 2023. So it began in 2021 and end in 2023, and through that they're bringing together different communities, different voices to kind of say what they need and what the church should do, and then I guess the meat of it, coming from the Holy Father. His statement is, Pope Francis invites the entire church to reflect on a theme that is decisive for its life and mission. Quote, "It is precisely this path of synodality which God expects of the church of the third millennium." End quote. This journey, which follows in the wake of the church's renewal, quote unquote, renewal, proposed by the Second Vatican Council, is both a gift and a task. By journeying together and reflecting together on the journey that has been made, the church will be able to learn through her experience which processes can help her to live communion, to achieve participation, to open herself to mission.
I really hope it's all just a trick, like they get all the heretics in there, and then the Swiss Guard comes out and claps them all in irons and sends them off to a dungeon somewhere. But failing that, I don't see much fruit coming out of that.
What are we trying to figure out? We have Catholics who believe and Catholics who are faithful and obedient, and yet now, let's just kick them out and let's focus on, what we can do to change what's going on in the church. It hasn't happened. They keep trying to do this. It's not going to happen. Please God, it will. Okay, like I said, St. Thomas Aquinas never, seldom affirm and never deny. Right. So I'm not saying it. With God, all things are possible, but it's just this continual push. So this synod is taking place, and I started looking around and looking at the time frame, and now I'm sorry, Frank, we're gonna get into a little tinfoil hat area here.
Oh, let me just put it on real quick.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm safe from the 5G waves now.
So, doing a little research, I look at all spectrums. I look at some very liberal left-wing news items. I looked at some very right-wing, extreme, even to the point of conspiracy. And there's left-wing conspiracies and there's right-wing conspiracies. So there's all sorts of conspiracies. The one that that just kind of jumped out at me, I've heard a little murmurs here and there about the Great Reset. Have you heard anything about this Great Reset from the World Economic Forum?
Oh, yeah. I think that one is pretty valid. All the criteria are here. Obviously, people that are in charge of money and banking want to change the world so they can do more money and more banking. I wouldn't say that's a conspiracy theory. It's just an observation of facts.
Okay. No, good. So we're cruising along. All right. So the World Economic Forum, is the international organization for public/private cooperation. The forum engages the foremost political, business, cultural, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industrial agendas. Okay, so that's the big word there, agendas. We got to, what does that mean?
Pretty
I don't know.
Bone-chilling.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. So, but if you look a little further, there is something called the Great Reset, which is sort of a program or an initiative of the World Economic Forum. And if you go to their website, World Economic Forum, and you look at the Great Reset, it says, quote, "The pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world." And that is Professor Klaus Schwab, who is the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. There are a lot of big players in this World Economic Forum and the Great Reset. Bill Gates is a big player there.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah. Yeah. We have some local political, not local as in Charlotte, but it's local as far as the United States. Alexandria Cortez. She is a player, with this New World Order, this Green New Deal, all of these things. So it's been going on for 50 years as well. the World Economic Forum, 1971 and to 2021, which is celebration of 50 years. And they want to see a more inclusive, a more just, and a more sustainable world. Their ideals are, world peace, world community, climate change, initiatives, food shortage.
Yeah, these are all nice ideas that they cloak the actual objective in. Artificial
intelligence. And Klaus Schwab, he said there was 4 phases of this World Economic Forum, and the phases I went through, and one of them stood out. So, the first, integrate leaders from government and business, and integrate them there into this process. Number 2, which I'm going to come back to, is turn participants into members. Number 3, conceptual leadership. Okay, well, it doesn't sound too bad. Number 4, generate stakeholder action to collective impact. Okay, all of that sounds pretty good. The one that really jumped out to me was the turn participants into members. Okay, so that is where it jumped out to me, and that is where I made a connection, at least in my tinfoil wrapped head, between the Synod on Synodality and the World Economic Forum. Like we spoke of last week, traditionally a synod would have been amongst bishops, cardinals, leaders of the church. This synod is invoking, just everyone, this laymen, to bring them in and kind of get input and opinion. And they'll say it's not opinion, but when it comes down to it, it's highly emotion and opinion, which is bringing forth a lot of these fruits from the synod.
Yeah, it's just a plebiscite, and what are all plebiscites? They're really just ways for people that actually have control of the situation, people that actually have money and power to dress it up in some kind of notion of it being populist.
Yeah, the results have been made, like you said, to your point. The results of the game have already been established, at least up until now.
Right.
I think I may be getting the nod from Chris coming up on another break, cruising through our second segment, but stick around and we will be right back.
Hello, Carolina Catholic family. This is David Papandrea, founder and chairman of Carolina Catholic Media. Please join us during our 2022 Catch the Spirit Pledge Drive season, starting with Giving Tuesdays and culminating with our 36-hour Sacred Heart Share-a-thon, June 22 through 24. Your pledge will help us better plan and allocate resources to evangelize the truth of Jesus Christ across our 7 media platforms in the Carolinas. Every dollar raised goes back into the Carolina Catholic operating and capital expense budget to grow our apostolate. When you consider the state of the world and the extraordinary times that we're living in, with a cancel culture, unprecedented media bias, mistruths and disinformation everywhere, it's clear why Carolina Catholic Media is here. Our mission is to communicate the truth of Jesus Christ and the Catholic Church to over 5 million souls in the Diocese of Charlotte and upstate South Carolina. With that comes a commitment to create diverse local programs from our parishes, schools, and ministries. Our vision is to bring everyone together as one unified Carolina Catholic community. Carolina Catholic Media is a 501c3 nonprofit. Your financial gift is 100% tax deductible. To sponsor or donate, please email me at feedback@carolinacatholicradio.org or call me at 800-857-2909. That's 800-857-2909. We appreciate your prayerful consideration to support us during our Catch the Spirit Pledge Drive. May God bless you abundantly.
Welcome back to The Obligation. My name is Jason Murphy. So glad you are here, staying with us, joined once again by my good friend. I can call you a good friend now, right, Frank?
I think so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, we qualify as good friends now. So, no, I appreciate you sticking with us. And Chris, thanks for being back there, running the board.
You're welcome. We're good friends, too.
I'll call you good friends. We're all friends here. Shiny, happy people everywhere.
And shiny hats.
That we have. And again, we're going to post that on the website. You guys looking for some custom aluminum foil hats, we're going to have those imprinted with the obligation. And one size fits all, I do believe, so... But we were just talking about, getting into some I hate to call it conspiracy theory because, yesterday's conspiracy theory is today's, news headline.
Conspiracy facts.
Conspiracy facts. So we were talking about the World Economic Forum's Great Reset, their idea here with, looking at, let's talk about that a little bit. We kind of just jumped over it, but, let's talk about some of the Great Reset that, behind this pandemic, as it was a rare but narrow window of opportunity. What are some examples that you've seen, Frank, that let's talk about those that our government or our world has used as a platform,
Oh, probably the best example is that this virus, this disease, whatever it is, however virulent it is, was used as a pretext to shut down the mass and to close churches.
Yeah.
I remember going through that. It was a total outrage having to watch Mass on TV. In Ireland, they used to walk out in the middle of the night and risk death and imprisonment to go receive our Lord. And then we have priests and bishops that, maybe they would have been ticketed or thrown in jail, but they weren't going to cut anyone's head off. They weren't going to burn anyone at the stake. And these churches were closed. It was preposterous. So, getting back to the Great Reset, I see that as probably their greatest victory, was shutting down the Mass and denying people the sacraments.
Absolutely. Yeah, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. We want this utilitarian society, this nirvana without God. It's this government controlled society, and they talk about this establishment of this world peace and this world community, this new world order. We know that many stakeholders in that game have been pushing for years. And how do you have peace without Christ? And you can't, right?
Right.
We know that. We know that from Scripture. We can look at several quotes from our Lord, and specifically the book of John, chapter 15. Our Lord says, "I am the vine; you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered. And they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned." It doesn't get any stronger than that.
No, that's true.
Our Lord clearly says, and there's so many others, and we know, we cannot do anything, and without Christ there is no peace. There is no true love. There is no true charity. All of that begins with our Lord and the greatest of charity and the greatest of sacrifice of Him laying down His life for us. So this whole idea of creating this wonderful world of peace, with no religion and specifically no Christ, if you start peeling it back, and Satan hates the Mass. He wants to do anything and everything he can to destroy the Mass. And, we can see what has happened with the Mass and the attack on the Mass since the 1960s. And we can look at the pandemic, which, to your point, that would certainly be the most greatest accomplishment to disrupt and remove the Mass from our practice. So looking at that and, wondering, taking the participants into the membership, it's kind of downplaying, looking at it from the church side perspective, that there's really no distinguishment, between cleric and layman. We're all in control, and there's been so many different pushes throughout the years, to remove that respect for the priesthood. And of course, the devil again took an attack with the sexual abuses and things we've seen over the years, to just discredit the priesthood and question the priesthood. And yet even the current pope has set up studies to determine if we should be ordaining women, as deacons and priests. And that was just done, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Of course, we know the German synod, these are pushes coming from there as well. And many of those players are the players involved in this synod. They're the ones who've, organized and orchestrated what's going on. So it's just it's a lot of confusion, and we know where there's confusion, Satan is there, because that's
true. All this stuff with women. I'm pretty sure we all know at this point as Catholics that feminism is straight from hell. It's a plot to undermine men, to undermine the authority of fathers, the authority
family.
Of priests,
ultimately the family.
It's an attack on the family, just like Our Lady warned us about.
Yeah.
And it's also an attack on the mass, because what do you see in every modernist church today? You see stuff like altar girls.
Yeah.
Some old lady goes up and presumes to go to the sanctuary and read Psalms.
Yeah.
It's like, why can't the priest do that? I think he's a little more qualified. Why do we have laymen getting up there and doing these things? I mean, I really don't see any logical reason for it other than to undermine the mass.
Yeah, it's across the board. You know, we've talked about the undermining of the altar servers. You know, if you want to remove boys from serving the mass and you want a decrease in vocations, put the girls in.
Yeah,
because the boys are going to flee. They don't want to be around it, and
Yeah.
that's just that's the way it is. So, and that's just they're all like these little pieces that all fit together for the same objective, to destroy the mass.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of like putting the cart behind the horse, or before the horse,
Yeah.
to focus on the bad fruits of these things. But when you look at what the actual act is, it's a grave offense to our Lord. It's blasphemy. And the offense given to God is way more important. It's what we should be focusing on, not like the fruits of, oh, the altar boys are leaving, or, it was clownish in Mass today.
Yeah.
You think about what's going on during the Mass. Christ being offered as a sacrifice. And that's being downplayed. That's being clowned on by these
Yeah.
people. It's horrible. But blasphemy is worse than murder. Everybody seems to forget about that.
That's right.
But especially in the Mass, the way it's being attacked today, like the idea that you can just go there and be indifferent, or a priest can say a Novus Ordo Mass, and then the next Mass is a Latin Mass, and he says, nope, no communion in the hand because this is Latin Mass. Well, Father, what were you doing an hour before?
Yeah,
Is it which
That's
is
right.
it? Is it right or is it wrong?
that's right.
It's this matter of preference now. Everybody thinks like, oh, I can just go do this or that. Or some people like this better. Some people like blasphemy. Doesn't mean we have to enable them or indulge them.
Yeah, the Novus Ordo, it just creates this a false sense of community. You know, that's what the intentions were. You know, they want to bring in in non-Catholics, and
The Sanhedrin was a community.
yeah, right. And they, it's become less of a sacrifice and more of a gathering. And when you have, even whether it's a woman or a man going up there to read, yes, the proper role traditionally would have been a man, because it would have been a cleric. It would have been someone studying for the priesthood that would have, fulfilled the lector position. But even that by allowing women to fill that role, and women, as altar servers, you downplay the importance and what our Lord has set up, in His holy priesthood, and you create this gathering. So you may have a priest, very well intentioned, who may start the Mass very well, and everything seems, intentional and reverent, even if he's saying it ad orientem. And yet you interrupt that whole, idea when you bring up someone who wants to get up and read Scripture as a speech, and they put their own inflection and their own tone, and it's a disruption. That's what it is. That's, break it. That is where it is. It's a disruption of the holy sacrifice of the Mass. Obviously, having a woman up there reading it, and I know we're, might get a lot of kickback on that, but if you're not liking hearing that, do a little research. Find out how that, when that took place and why it never was permitted before.
And I understand this is a men's show. I'm sure there's women listening, but I would ask women, why do you see these things as attacks? Why do you feel offended at these things? If only men were allowed to fulfill clerical offices in the Middle Ages, and women can do it today, and we want to go back to how the church used to do things, why do you get offended by that? I would ask yourself, like, why is that an attack?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just see that as better? So there's a lot of women who do understand, and they see like, yeah, these things were better. Like, I don't want to be an altar girl. I don't want to be a priest. Like, those things are for men. But some women see it as a personal affront or an attack, or that women are inferior or stupid or something. And that's definitely not the case. Like, I can't have a baby.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to have babies either. That's the way God wants it.
Right.
But there are things that women can't do. They can't be priests. They can't be Marine Scout snipers. They can't be altar girls. That's just how it is. That's how God wills it.
Yeah. There's folks that are offended, probably on both sides. Even at the scripture quote, women be subordinate to your husbands.
Yeah.
But Father Rue has a great way of balancing that one out, because some guys will take that one the wrong way, and he has mentioned many times in a wedding or a marriage ceremony, he'll remind the men, yes, that is true, but men, love your wives, place your wives on a pedestal and give her a place like you would, the Blessed Mother. And so, if you look at that, we are called to different roles, different, wonderfully, infinitely beautifully, roles, and that's the subversion. That's the subversion within the church. It's the subversion within society. Attack the men, attack the family, and destroy the church. We are, the family is the domestic church. So you want to start from the very basic form of what church is. You attack, you attack society. You attack, the sexuality. You have people questioning their own sexuality. If you don't even know your own sexuality, what else can you know?
You're insane. You're literally insane at that point.
Yeah.
These simple facts that should be just bleedingly obvious to everybody. If you've got your psyche that wide, the doors are flung that wide open, somebody can come by and just put whatever they want in there. As long as they can convince you that these basic truths are not real. 4 + 4 = 9.
Yeah.
Once they get you to admit that, it's fair game. They can make you into whatever they want to make you.
So, we've talked about a lot of spiritual attacks, on the church, obviously, and, but there are a lot of current physical threats and attacks. Primarily, I'm speaking of, a recent mass, shooting in Nigeria. 50 Catholics were slaughtered during Mass this past Sunday. And, we are under attack. The church is, the church has always been under attack. We know that, but I think things are taking a different way. Everyone's under attack. The children have been under attack, but primarily this is stemming from family corruption in the family and destruction of the family, and the men have to be present. You have to be involved. I saw in a video of during the shooting in Texas, and the men were videoing with their phones while the women were running.
Oh, brother!
Towards the school, and that just speaks volumes of where men are these days. Men are just lost. Men just we're just going along to get along, and we don't want to offend anyone, and we're drinking the Kool-Aid. But men have to get involved, Frank.
That's true. And all these attacks are totally intentional. Right now, men have much of the responsibilities of the past, but none of the authority of the past.
Yeah.
There's divorce hell. There's the divorce industry. You're still expected to fulfill all the responsibilities of a man. And this bleeds over into simple things like defense. Men don't seem interested in defending themselves, defending their family, defending their churches. And sadly, it takes a lot of vandalism, theft of the Eucharist, or also just a straight up guns blazing attack on your church like we see in Africa and in some places in France too. The society churches out there are getting attacked by Muslims, and nobody's stepping up to do the right thing. So I don't know where the answer to that is going to come from other than men need to get serious about protecting their church.
Yeah.
If you're a man, God has given you a lot of gifts to include upper body strength. Everything you can do as a man that a woman can't do, you have to use that gift to defend your church. I would hate to be in front of the judge on the judgment day and him demanding a strict account of why did you let your church get vandalized?
Yeah.
Why did you let my precious body and blood get stolen from the church? Why? And for me to not have an answer, or that I was lackadaisical, or I stood there and recorded it on my cell phone so I could put it on YouTube. I would hate to be in that man's shoes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for a man to truly take a stance, he has to begin on his knees, right?
Certainly.
Humble himself before God and, ask for that. Ask for faith, right? Ask for faith. If some of the greatest prayers can be prayed without saying a word and just showing that you are a humble servant and looking for the way. Speaking of some of these attacks, what do you think, as someone who's, well-versed, a Marine sniper, and in the private security sector. What are some for guys out there? Because a lot of guys don't think about it. I personally, now sharing a pew with your father, who I know would be right there, right next to me. I'm gonna be running towards it. I'm gonna be, if I'm not armed at the time, I'm going to grab 2 missiles. I'm gonna throw them in the direction and where I need to as a distraction, and I'm going right at it. And I've visualized it multiple times of different scenarios, different doors of where something like that might happen. But for guys out there that hadn't even thought about it and they just think, oh well, church is comfortable and it's safe and nothing's gonna happen, don't get too comfortable. What are some practical awareness and tactics you think just an average guy can be aware of and be prepared for if something should happen?
Well, you said it like 30 times, Jason. Awareness, yeah. So stop being a sacrament poacher. Stop going to church and receiving and leaving. It's disgraceful behavior. First of all, not even from a security standpoint. Second of all, you want to get to know everybody in your community. That way, you'll have a barometer. You can see if somebody doesn't belong, if they're acting weird. Yeah. You can keep an eye on people. Then after that, I would advise getting some kind of committee together. Just get some men together, drink some beer, smoke some cigars, and talk about security. Usually there's an ex-cop or a current cop at the parish, and that's the guy to figure things out. Right. Because he can call another department. He can have cops out front or checking up on the place when you're not there. But just figuring out some solution. Because we tried to do this at one of the other churches I went to, and nobody really seemed to be interested. I seemed to be the only one who cared about, hey, what do we do if someone comes in here and starts shooting? Yeah. We know a few of the guys concealed carry or whatever, but we would rather have some kind of solution worked out with the ushers. Yeah. So getting together with the men at your parish and talking and establishing some kind of system with somebody that's current or former law enforcement would be the best suggestion. Yeah, absolutely. And to be aware, you obviously have to be there. That's true. So that's true. Awareness begins, being there and being aware of your faith and taking that initiative. Man, I think we've covered a ton. Probably a lot more we could cover, and I'm sure we'll probably get together again, go over some things. Chris, appreciate you running things back there. Looks like we are rounding third and heading for home, so we appreciate you tuning in. And Frank, it was incredible talking to you. I think we'll have another sit down and keep digging here. Awesome. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it. Make sure to bring that tinfoil hat. You might need it. Okay. Yeah. 5G rays are everywhere now. That's right. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week. God bless, and Esto Vir. You can also catch all of our previous episodes and all of the shows of Carolina Catholic Media at www.carolinacatholic.org. Click that donate button, and we'd greatly appreciate it. There are also many opportunities to sponsor the show, the radio station, and the Catholic Men's Conference. Join Sensus Fidelium, Harmony Home Solutions, and Wallach Investments, who have pledged their funds to help keep Catholic radio on the air and relevant. Sensus Fidelium is a collection of Catholic homilies, apologetic videos, and other resources to grow in one true faith. They can be found online at www.sensusfidelium.com. Wallach Investment, LLC is a strategic moral investing firm committed to placing their clients' interests ahead of their own. Their mission is to be a force of good in their relationships to make the most of their clients' investment, giving them the time and confidence to pursue their mission. Contact Daniel Wallach at www.wallachinvestments.com for more information. For the Obligation Radio Show, the Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas, and the Carolina Media Network, my name is Jason Murphy. God bless, and Esto Vir.